to ask for a motion to accept our meeting agenda for March 7th.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, yes. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's everything. At this time, do we have anything, Pearl, for our community open forum? Okay, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff DeMung.
Test, test.
You just push the button.
It's on. I just want to make sure you guys can.
Yep.
It's loud enough? We good?
Yeah, it's perfect.
I got a big mouth too, so. All right, I have a prepared speech here. You guys should have this in front of you as well. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Chief Pooley, past Chief Hansen, and myself, Chief DeMung, are here representing the volunteer fire departments within the school district. I would like to thank you for allowing your local fire and EMS providers to present a request to adopt the New York State Volunteer Firefighter Property Partial Tax Exemption Real Property Tax Law 466-A. This new law was signed into effect by the governor December 9th of last year. The intention of this law is to promote retention and recruitment of the volunteer fire service and EMS personnel. We have been working feverishly over the past 2 months with local town boards, village boards, the Oswego County Legislature to take steps to adopt this law promptly. The goal is to get all taxing jurisdictions to approve the resolution. We are here today to ask your support for us in this effort. The departments that we are representing here today include Brewerton, Codnoy, Central Square, Cleveland, Constantia, Hastings, and West Monroe. We provide 24/7 protection to our communities, families, and students of the district with 100% volunteer members. We take great pride in educating the community through annual fire prevention and safety night, visiting all the elementary schools during Fire Prevention Week, and providing EMS coverage for special events for the school district. It has become increasingly difficult to keep members active and entice new members to join our ranks. This presents challenges not only to respond to emergencies, but also to support the community and the district. The Firefighters Association of the State of New York, FASNY, has put a great deal of time and effort into finding solutions for this issue that will aid local volunteer fire departments in maintaining and building their membership. By passing a resolution to support the new law, you can help us take a step towards a solution. The resolution that we are presenting to be passed by this board is for a 10% partial tax exemption, which is 10% reduction of the assessed value of enrolled members. As per the allowance of the law, there would be no loss of tax revenue by adopting the resolution. Rather, the exemption amount would be transferred to the rest of the tax base. An enrolled member is an active member that responds to calls, has New York State qualifications, and attends drills regularly. Active members can be defined by New York State Volunteer Firefighters Benefit Law and New York State Length of Service Award programs. Enrolled members are verified by the local town, village, or fire district boards annually to qualify. We reviewed our rosters and evaluated our members' activity to determine the estimated numbers of active members that could take advantage of this law as of now. Combining all 7 fire departments, we estimate 100 members could qualify as enrolled members. We estimate that this has an impact of $30,000. Based on the average assessed value of real property in the school district, we estimate the average taxpayer would see an increase of 60 cents per 100,000 of assessed value, only about $1 per taxpayer based on the average assessed value of their houses. Property, I should say. FASNY's legal team has provided us a resolution that we are requesting you and your legal representatives review. We are requesting that this resolution be approved prior to May 1st when the county's assessments are finalized. This would enable enrolled members to take advantage of the reduction on the next tax bill. We thank you for your time and appreciate your consideration of this matter, and we'd like to open the floor to any questions you may have for us.
I have no questions.
I already talked to Chief Pooley, so I already had my questions answered, but the only question I had, and you put it in here, was about the how do you define an enrollee? So I just want to reiterate this, so every year you have to certify that person, and so you're defining it. It's not like, I'll just say hypothetically, I can't just go and say, yeah, I'm a fireman, and then, I have to go through the certification program and everything, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, and then you guys basically take it to the assessor saying that I'm a certified.
Yep.
And the assessors have to approve it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, and that's the biggest piece that I had a concern about was you know, it couldn't be just somebody walking up the street saying that they're,
We wouldn't want to give up that benefit.
Yeah,
We want
exactly.
Somebody else to take from us.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like they don't just have to be a certified firefighter, they have to be active with one of the.
yeah, with,
Fire
yeah,
department.
the whole activity.
So I assume there's gonna be a certification
Yeah.
from the fire department. of who's-
And that's done annually, correct, you said?
Yeah.
I just know that Chief DeMung was reading, so, okay. I'm all good. Does anybody else have any questions for them? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone, there's nobody else here. Okay.
Oh, you have to stay for open meeting.
They're gonna miss their election.
We all have to go to the fire department for more.
Thank you for coming, you guys. At this time, we're gonna move on to item D, special presentations to the board. We're gonna start off with staff recognitions for 10 and 5 years. We're gonna line up here, and Pearl, you wanna do the presentation first? Yeah, we're gonna watch the video first, and then, so we can see all you lovelies out here. And then we'll do awards and pictures.
I let Pearl do the special effects, so this may take 2 hours. Oh, that's a good one. Oh my God.
Good morning. Good evening, everyone. So we are going to start with our recognition. I am going to start with our 10-year staff members. This staff have been here with us for 10 years. You want them to come up as I call, right? You want to start with us?
They come around this way and then they come here.
Connie, do the walk of shame.
She knows.
There's a bell on that's gonna come up, and I know that would end. See?
It's been a long day. Okay, so 10 years. To start, we have Cindy Brown, Angelo Crocchio, Nancy Clark, Ed Dar is here with us. Lindsay Ezzo, Jason Hoyt, Ronald Herney, Eilena Kelly, John Landers, Angela Last is here. Krista Lewis is here. Kevin Madison. Kyle Para. Dean Porter. Margie Saunders.
Watch out for the cord.
Thank you. Rebecca Shaughnessy. Lindsay Staley. Leanne Strader. Yes. Heidi Sullivan. Kelly Taylor. Damon Villeneuve, and Elizabeth Wallace, all of our 10-year staff members.
And I'm going to do our 5-year employees in recognition, beginning with Alyssa Anderali, Julia Anderson, Barbara Donaldson, Benjamin Feinberg, Julie Frank,
Thank you.
Mia Galvan,
Absolutely. Just see the ladies in personnel, we'll do that for you.
Amanda Geis, Arena Gerchman, Allison Grottos,
Thank you.
Mackenzie Graham,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mark Green, Kristen Heffernan, Sarah Henderson, Christina Karkowski, Miranda Kenny, Deborah Ladd, Andrea Love, Stacy Millard, Johnny Pierce, Kayla Rout, our next staff member is Valerie Schwam. Valerie has a total of 20 years with the district, with the last 5 years with transportation and the rest with food service. She's been around. Dan,
Thank you very
Daniel
much.
Chicatano. Joanne Slider. Shannon Sofsky. Alexis Spadaro. Jennifer Tartaglia. Jordan Tiff. And Megan Vecchio. All right, so Pearl, where are you having them go for their picture?
We usually do it right behind,
On the wall.
right here, and Brad's gonna take it.
Okay, we're gonna have you folks line up. Do you want 10 and 5 year together, 10 and 5 year separate? I don't remember how you did it.
Split it, it's pretty.
Just put them,
We're gonna do it together, or no?
I mean, it's pretty large.
Let's go. 10. We're gonna split them.
We'll split it.
all right, so we're gonna split, everybody go over to organize the
item that is on the board packet and is actually on the website is a proposed budget. This document's, I think, 28 pages long. So I'm just going to skim through the highlights and a couple of facts to get us familiar with what's inside the document. Yeah, it's not on.
There we go.
So the first 2 pages are the revenue analysis that we're using, and the third and fourth page are the budget or the expenditure items. Basically, we have 2 categories of revenue, as we've discussed last time, state aid and the tax levy. We have a decent increase in state aid. This tax levy, the budget we're proposing is 2.84%, and I will follow this presentation with another one regarding the tax levy. We are increasing the designated fund balance by $1.5 million. I discussed this with our auditors, and based on the controller report, he wants us to put a little bit more towards our budget, and then we're keeping our other expenses the same. So this is basically a 5%, 5.08% budget increase. And these are the details of those numbers. And those state aid numbers are basically the numbers that are off the run. This governor, for the first time in many years, gives us our numbers up front, so we don't have to do that dance of, we're hoping the numbers will be bigger, we have to wait till May until we know what's going on. Based on last year, these are the numbers. If they change, it will only be slight, and it might be more, just be based on the runs. And then down closer to the bottom, you have your tax levy and your designated fund balance. This is what the expenditure side looks like that we're proposing. Again, a 5.08 increase. The bulk of our budget is in salary and the associated benefits. And we spend quite a bit of money with our BOCES services. Our debt service are basically our mortgage payments on our capital projects. And everything else basically falls into the other category, which is actually a lot smaller than you think it would be. And then we pull out the fuel and the utilities, number one, because it shows how big of an increase we are planning, but also because it's the COPES, it's what's recommended by the comptroller's office. These are the detailed lines of all of those figures out in front, and in the detailed budget, every one of those lines has the details of what's included in them. So I'm going to try to go over the bulk of the budget tonight with you, which is essentially the salaries and the benefits. Almost 3/4 of the budget is spent on people. So we'll just kind of breeze through who they are and where they are. This is the elementary staff. The 4 elementary buildings, you can see the enrollment. The K-5 classrooms, basically Cole, Burton, and Hastings-Mallory are about the same size, and there's 18 classrooms in each of them. Millard Hawk is a bigger building because it was the junior high, and that's why you see more classrooms there. There's more students in there. They all have a UPK. There's a Bridges program at AECO. The specials work throughout the buildings. Some of them are shared. And then all the buildings have AIS positions and a curriculum consultant. I'm actually accomplishing 2 things with this presentation. The little asterisks show where we have stimulus or grant fund monies in the positions. So at the elementary staff, 4 of those AIS positions are in that stimulus money because they are helping with the learning loss, with the reading. There's a grade at Hastings-Mallory and Millard Hawk and a UPK, which is essentially at the lower levels, again, helps with lowering the class size, which is where the reading needs to start and is the most important. This is the secondary staff across the middle school and the high school. obviously done differently because they're, the grades have core subject matters, ELA, science, math, and social studies. And then you can see the special areas, the CTE, the language, the AAS. In the secondary staff, there are 5 positions that are funded with the grant money for AAS, 1 at each level, or subject matter, in ELA, a science, and math, and a social studies. And then the music position at the middle school, one of those is also in the grant to offer, basically that's part of the enhanced part of the grant requirements to offer more band sections. This is the special education staffing, and all of this is across all of those buildings on top of the people that are in them now. The elementary staff, the middle school and the high school positions, and then the speech, the OT, PT, and the psychs are the services that they are in buildings, and some of them are shared. What we've been making a big effort on over the last couple of years is the mental health area. And again, this is also one of the items that are grant funded, quite a few of those positions. 4 social workers and 2 counselors are supported by the ARP, the American Rescue Plan funds. And that's one of the requirements of that money is mental health. So that, all of that together combined is our teaching staff. That unit is about 336 people. And teaching assistants are another large unit that we have. This shows them by the building and across the positions. The bulk of our TAs are special ed positions. They're either one-on-ones or one-on-two, and then there's TAs that are assigned to special ed classrooms and resource rooms. There's 5 TA positions actually that are, again, in the grant. We have a TA right now in each of the elementary health offices, and one of the UPK teachers is supported by the grant, or TA, sorry, which goes with the UPK teacher. This is how the buildings and grounds workers are across the board. The grounds and the maintenance workers are district-wide. They're assigned where they're needed. Our building clerical staff by the building, the district office staff, and then transportation. Right now, we're about 90. The bus monitors and drivers, those numbers kind of fluctuate a couple up and down almost every month. We have a unit called non-instructional supervisors, which are basically, they supervise what they say, all the non-instructional. There's the technology people are in there. The dispatchers are also in there in the transportation center and the head mechanic. And the nurses and the monitors. There's a nurse in each building, and at the middle school and the high school, there's a few full-time monitors that they're at the doors. And then there's part-time monitors at the elementary buildings. Basically, they're in the cafeterias during lunch hours. And then the administrators, there's individual contracts, those are the titles. And then the principals in the buildings, assistant principals, and the athletic director. So that's all the staff across the entire district that makes up all of that money. I just want to show that 23 of those positions are supported by the ARP money, which is the big grant that we have that is going to be 3 years long. I have a slide to show that. But we also get title funds that support 11 of the 11 positions. We have a UPK grant that supports 3 positions, and the special ed program and the IDEA grants support another 5 positions. So these are the 23 positions that I had starred in the presentation. I just want to point those out. Number one, we have to show the state by requirements that we are letting everybody know that these positions are there and what the grants support, but also because it's going to become an issue for us the next year out. So this is all of the federal aid that's happened throughout the last few years. we basically, they call it now stimulus number 1, 2, and 3 for schools. The first one, the CARES Act, was done in September of '22, and that money supported positions that were in the general fund. So we didn't see any change. When the money left, we kept them, we brought them back into our general fund. The second grant, stimulus grant number 2, Carissa Act, is ending, basically in this school year for us, it will be ended. It runs through September of '23. But those positions are actually, there's 4 of them, and this proposed budget, the '23-24 budget, has those positions brought back into that budget. So we're not going to eliminate those. But the year after, the ARP grant, the ones that I was just pointing out, those 23 positions, that ends in September of '24. That's going to be our challenge. We're going to have to come up with a game plan on prioritizing what those positions are and if they are accomplishing what we want them to, and what we're going to try to keep, and how much money we're going to have.
Yeah, I think, Tom, it's going to be really important that, I mean, I hope you're working on that now.
We are, and that's why a lot of districts are gonna go and tax their people right up to their cap. For us, our cap is 4.86. We're choosing to go at, I believe, it was at 2.64?
2.84.
2.84. That's half of what we could, but we could not go 3 years without raising the tax levy.
Yeah,
And then
Tom, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that you're gonna have to plan for these 23 positions and how you're gonna pay for
I
it.
think he's
Right.
very aware of that, Steve. He knows his job. He knows his job.
Lori, I really don't want you to speak for me, okay?
Well,
I'm
I'm
on
telling you
the
that
board.
you do that all the time.
No, and this is gonna be critical for Tom and his staff to develop a plan
And they
and
will
present
do
it to the
that.
board. They haven't done it yet. They talk about it, but they haven't done it yet. This is next year's budget, right? So if we're not talking about this in August, it's not gonna be presented until the last minute. They should be talking about it now. Now. It's 23 positions. Okay?
So if I can jump in, because originally you'd asked me, we do, that's all we talk about. So what we're looking at is the data to show in different ones of these areas to say, okay, if we accomplish what we've accomplished, then we don't need, we're not throwing money at something for the sake of doing it. We didn't put those positions in. Some of them may not last forever, some of the reading positions and whatnot. However, we're looking at that, we're presenting to the board based on the data that we regularly show. And if we see that we're not where we're at yet, but we're getting good results from the positions that we put in, then obviously we're gonna keep those. But what we're doing on a regular basis, and that's what we talk about in cabinet on a regular basis, and then after cabinet, is we have some things that we're planned abandonment, things that are no longer needed. We don't need to do that. We don't need to go down that path. So we're constantly looking at that cost. And I want the whole board and anybody watching this to know, it's not that we're not doing this, we're doing this. And this is what we're talking about. So at any time, if a board member wants to call us, we can tell them our plans. If any board member wants to come into a cabinet meeting and you can see what we're talking about to preserve this, but we are 100%, and I know I didn't interpret it that way. I don't want anyone to think that we're sitting on our hands and we're just waiting to see, well, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, it happened. This is all we talk about. So when I did mention the fact that we would be taxing not at our limit, part of that is the long-term planning that I don't know any districts that have gone 3 years without raising the tax levy, but we're not even doing it as much as we could. So I think that's where some of the money's gonna come from, but then the other things are gonna be things that we no longer need.
Okay, thanks.
And that's why I'm talking about it now, a year ahead of time, because I want everybody to realize that this will be something, it's gonna be one of our challenges. And especially at cabinet, we've been talking about it, and watching these positions and what they do and what they accomplish. Because,
well, let me just, there are a couple positions that we know we don't ever want to get rid of, like our special patrol officers. We want to keep one in every building. Originally, we had 3, then we went to 4, then we went to 6, 1 per building. So we know that's a cost that we're gonna have to make sure that we're carrying with us, because we don't wanna go back to not having one in the buildings as part of our safety measures.
And I also think, well, I know that they're talking about this also at the state level, because they're very aware that all this money has been placed in the places that they've told us to place it, and that there's gonna be the drop-off for everybody when these ARP grants leave.
But
So
it's
I think
good,
they're
it's good that
working
we're
about
talking
it.
about, it's
No,
good that we're
exactly.
talking about this because we got dinged by the comptroller for doing what all the other districts have done, is carrying over more fund balance, because unfortunately, they wanna make the rules and say, don't go above 4%, but then we're gonna throw even more unfunded mandates at you, the cost, everything keeps going up. And so, I'm glad that we had a board to support us with that, understanding the fact that all the other districts go out with far more than 4% for planning for things like this.
And definitely because the revenue, the state aid revenue numbers are good this year, going at a 5% budget increase helps, make it bigger so that we can continue to support some of these things moving forward. Just a few highlights of what's in the packet. Besides where all those people are, these 4 positions are included in the general fund budget that were in that Carissa number. The one back here, the number 2, that's going to be ending before this budget year starts. Also added into this new budget, or in the 23-24 budget, are positions that we have added and things we have been done over the last year and a half. And there is room to actually get them in there this year, which is great. We have the executive director of personnel. We did increase the personnel assistant from a 0.5 to a full-time. We have 2 more social workers, 2 more special ed, and a TA at the UPK level. We also have sent a lot more students to BOCES, those CTE slots. And BOCES charges districts on an average rolling basis. So your number is from the prior year so that you can budget. So our number's going up pretty significantly this year because we've got quite a few kids that actually went there last year. And the BOCES admin costs are increasing because they are doing modulars. Tom has told you about that, I believe. And there are a bunch of adjustments to the supplies and materials. Just putting those numbers in areas where they need to be higher is almost more budget adjustment than it is an increase in the budget. So the budget increase, as I stated, is 5.08%. The tax levy increase is 2.84%. But remember, that's the tax levy. It's only one of a 3-part tax rate calculation. And we're proposing an increased fund balance from $1.5 million to $3 million. The recommendation of the comptroller audit and our external auditors. The revenues and the expenditures are balanced at the 5.08% increase. The levy increase is shown on the first page and the second page. And that, as I said, the tax rate is made up of the 3 parts, and we really only control the one piece, which is the levy. The town assessments are controlled by the assessor's offices, and we have 11 townships that are in our taxing jurisdiction. And the equalization rates come from the New York State real property tax offices. And that's basically an adjustment that's put on towns and villages that aren't at 100% assessed value. We are increasing the proposed designated fund balance. And I put this up here because we just got this data from our 5-star or 5-site program. You can see the 22 student population, and this is an actual number that they take the 5 years of birth rates that are recorded. So it does look like we are at our spot where we're just gonna kind of maintain based on birth rate. So, and that, it's funny that what that study, it was what, 15 years ago? That Seversky study, it actually has kind of come to be exactly what they said it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And just putting out there for long-term planning, we have capital project beginning again this summer, and it's gonna be phase 1 and phase 2, so we are gonna be in construction again for 2 more years. We still have Smart School Bond Act money. That's basically for technology. We've purchased a lot of technology in the grants this time because that was one of the items that they were targeting. So we'll be using the Smart School Bond money to support some of those initiatives that we did within the grants. And there's always the long-term planning with the CSI building. Right now, we're going to be using it the next 2 years as swing space for the capital projects. And we continue to talk about some special education programming eventually, or alternate education programming. And then we continue to plan for the grants to run out. This is the budget timeline. May 16th is the vote. As you move backwards to tonight, we do have to adopt a budget in April. So we have a month. I'm hoping everybody will take some time to look this over, and if there are any questions or concerns, definitely let Tom know or myself know, and we will get back to you ASAP. Any questions? Okay, the other presentation is quick. It is on that, the property tax cap calculation. I'd like to go through it just because I want to show that we're not actually levying the total amount. And this legislation came into being to limit the total levy that school districts can put out there. But it doesn't adjust anything with the assessed value or the tax rate. It's just the cap, which means that whatever number we put out there, that's all that we will collect. But how it is distributed across the townships is based on all 3 calculations. This has not been updated. I looked for it this year, but I just thought I like this graph because it shows these are all the districts in New York State. Tax levy is a bigger portion of the revenues of school districts than state aid is. And so the property tax cap legislation has actually made a bigger impact on school districts than the state aid problems that people have. It's the opposite for us because we're more dependent on state aid than we are on tax, but for most districts it is not the case. These are the calculations, the components that are inside the property tax cap. I know people think that it's 2%, but there's a lot more to it than that. 2% is just one of the little line items in there, but that's the entire calculation to get your tax levy limit. So this is how you do it. Our levy from the year we're in right now, you multiply your tax-based growth factor, you adjust for pilots and capital exclusions, which are essentially building aid versus debt service. And then you get an adjusted current year levy, and that right there you multiply it by 2% or CPI, whichever is more. So this year the 2% is the limit, which brings you down to a subtotal. You adjust for the pilot's plan for next year, and you get your proposed tax levy limit. After that, you can adjust back the capital exclusions. And at that point, if you were to not take those exclusions, which we don't have to, our levy would be 5.84. I think it's in the next slide. But we're applying fund balance to bring us back to the levy limit, which is 2.84%. If we didn't apply the fund balance, that $550,290 is equal to another 1.84% tax, which makes our limit possibly up to 4.68. We're not applying that. We'll use fund balance towards that piece, and we'll offset the taxes by 1.84%. This is just to keep in mind that the tax on true, or the market rate, we always estimate it when we do the, now that we have a true tax levy limit, we'll work it back into the formula, and at the public presentation, we'll have to estimate what the tax rate will be. And this is, if you look up onto the left-hand side, this is what our estimated rate is based on what we know in May. But if you look on at the August actuals, after the assessments are adjusted and the equalization rates are adjusted, it comes in quite a bit less than what we estimate. And this is the graph that shows the property taxes across the Oswego County districts. Central Square is the second line. So we are right in the middle as far as tax rate per thousand. These are the three parts that make up the tax levy. I'm good. Any questions on that? Does anyone have any questions on any of it? All right.
I think we're good.
Thanks.
Okay, at this time, I'm just going to go back a little bit to superintendent's report.
The following varsity teams qualified for the Winter Scholar Athlete through the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. We talked about this before. The team has to have an average of 90%, which is pretty phenomenal. Central Square is always recognized for this. We have boys basketball, we have girls basketball, we have boys bowling, we have girls bowling, we have rifle, we have girls indoor track and field, we have boys indoor track and field, and we have wrestling. So that's pretty remarkable right there. The recruitment fair, although not as well as attended as the previous one, brought us several new substitutes in various departments and yielding a new full-time teaching assistant as well. Mrs. Galvan will be attending some of the spring open houses to continue to recruit from within our community. So that's a great job, Mrs. Galvan. The maintenance staff, with the assistance of the ground staff, has hardened all of the hallway walls consisting of 20 spaces at CSI. This work took several months. They had to remove the glass that was above the lockers, frame the space out with steel studs, and then hang sheetrock to finish the walls. The custodial staff is in the process of priming and painting as time permits. And again, I just want to say for that building down there is going to definitely play a key role, not only with next year, and we had the open forum with some wonderful families from Hastings-Mallory attended that, and we were able to answer all of their questions. So that's where next year Hastings-Mallory Elementary is going to be. The following year, we will have AA Cole will be operating out of there, and then, you know, it's just really good to have that building with Micron and the possibility of definite increase. That would definitely change that Seversky study. All right, the music department. The photo, I'm going to have it up there, if that's okay, is the all-district band concert that took place on March 2nd in the Paul V. Moore High School Gymnasium. On the MAG side of the bleachers were completely full. 150 chairs on the floor were also full, and there were people standing in the aisles. The concert included 5th grade district band, the middle school 8th grade band, and the high school wind ensemble, so that the students and the parents could see and hear 3 levels of bands perform. The final selection was a grand finale with all 3 bands performing. The Central Square Junior Guard placed 2nd out of 4 in their class this weekend at the home show. I was there. I brought my 2 boys. We were there for about 5 hours. It was excellent. The JV Guard placed 1st out of 3 in their class, even after they had moved to a higher class that week. The Varsity Guard placed 1st uncontested in open class. The drumline competition at CNS this past weekend had the Central Square Middle School Percussion Ensemble, which is the only New York State competing middle school ensemble, placed 1st with an outstanding performance. The Red Hawk Regiment Winter Drumline tied for 2nd place out of 8 competing drum lines from across New York State. And it's next weekend is the Drumline home show, so we'll be back at it. I'll be very excited. We have brand new desks that were brought to our middle and high school over winter break. A lot of people worked hard to make that happen. Both the high school boys, the varsity boys and girls had historic seasons. Both teams received number 2 seeds in the Section 3 tournament and both advanced to the championship game. The girls, I was not at that game on Saturday because I was here at Winter Guard, but I was getting updates from pretty much everybody at that table over there was there. And the girls did a phenomenal job, and then Indian River just literally turned it on in the 4th. And they beat us. Both teams played amazingly well. I was at the boys' game on Sunday night, and it was great to see so many staff members and administrators and teachers. Some custodians were there that I saw. It was awesome. And again, very similar to the girls' situation, we were dominating that game until like the last 5 minutes. And then New Hartford just went on a hot streak. But again, nothing to hang their heads. They had awesome, awesome seasons. And they were both scholar teams, which is wonderful. The Central Square Wrestlers had a great season culminating in 3 athletes winning the Class A tournament. Dante Coppola, Zach Overton, and Rocky Files all won their division at the Class A tournament. Rocky Files went on to win sectionals and placed 7th overall in the state at the NYSPHSAA tournament, and he's going to be back for his senior year. The boys bowling team won sectionals for their division and were runner-up to New Hartford to move into the state tournament. The rifle team won another sectional title this year and will compete in Lancaster at the state tournament. We definitely have to update the rifle banner, the hanging in the gymnasium. If any of you got a chance to see, Mia Coppola was interviewed, as well as Coach Manjeek, and it was on Channel 9. It was great. And again, the things that Paul Manjeek talks about in his 58th season is, focus, determination, teamwork. And we have Christy Fishman was on his team when she was here competing. So it's amazing how long he's been here, and he just keeps doing it. Alyssa Costello won her indoor track event at sectionals and will be competing in the state tournament in Staten Island. Truman Remenicki won sectionals and his state qualifying event to advance to the states. He won every meet that he participated in this year. That's phenomenal. Great job, Truman. Congratulations to all of our teams and athletes. It was an incredible winter. Our College and Career Readiness Committee meeting is March 15 at 6 p.m. We have a really good agenda and slideshow, and I'm really looking forward to some meaningful dialogue. Just real quick, the teachers were in agreement with the 186-day MOA. I know there was a little bit of confusion. It was on some of the parent forums and whatnot. I'm not part of the parent forums, but someone told me that there was a little confusion, like, why don't we have 186 days now? Why didn't we do that before? So it's in the teacher's contract. It's been past practice. It's 185 days. So for us to change that, we had to have an agreement. And the agreement basically is that if we have if we don't use our 6 snow days, 3 of them can go back. Now, over the past 8 years, just to give you a little bit of reference here, twice we only had 3 snow days. Twice we had 6 snow days, and instead of it actually, there were always last minute deals, so it didn't come out of spring break. One, it was May 16, which was voting day. Originally, we didn't have it. We didn't want voting to be in the schools. Now voting is not in our schools, so that's a moot point. But then there was another time that we had to do a professional development in June after rating day. And so the reason why we are doing the remote option is after numerous phone calls from the teachers union, their members, really wanted to be able to exercise every opportunity to not have to have their workers that worked hard all year long, lose a day of spring break to have to get docked, because that's in the agreement before, that's where it would come from. And also for all the families, especially during COVID, we don't want the kids, even the families that said, well, you know what, we're on a cruise or we booked a trip, and we didn't want them to feel that their kids would be missing out. So in order to do that remote option, Chris Todd, who also works for State Ed, was very clear in that every child had to have access, except UPK, had to have access to a device, electronic device. So Since we put the original letter out, the principals communicated with the parents, basically saying that, you know, they could fill a quick little Google survey, so if they already had a device at home and they didn't want to risk their child bringing their device home, dropping it, breaking it, and whatnot, that they already have several devices. There are devices now that it's, you know, $80 for a Chromebook. It wasn't like it was, you know, 8 years ago where it was like $250, $350. So for those parents that did not want their kid to bring home a Chromebook, that's fine. At the secondary level, they always brought them home anyway. That's where they charged them at home. So we're finding it's not really that bad, and the teachers have, oh, the other thing was, on the teacher's Canvas page or whatever electronic platform they use, they had to have the Zoom link because it had to be direct instruction for at least half the day. We're allowed to then use that as part of 180 days. There were some parents that called me up and they were referencing something I said a year and a half ago, and I said, we will have traditional snow days. And I explained to the parent that if they kept reading that sheet, it said, until we exhaust our 5 allotted snow days, then we have to comply with 180 days. We still have to comply with the 900 instructional hours at the elementary level and 990 instructional hours at the middle school and high school. And that, like, there's an Excel spreadsheet, and Aaron, that's one of the things that Aaron does. You have to literally program every instructional minute in. You have to take out passing times and recess and lunch, and then if it lights up green, then you're good. If it lights up red, then you're not. That's another reason why we can't tell everybody what the last week for half days is going to be until we actually see how that populates. So we're thrilled that the teachers agreed to the 186. That gives us 6 emergency days next year. I'm very happy about that. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk. That concludes the superintendent report.
Thank you, sir. Any board members with anything?
I watched the game, and the kids were, the flag was awesome. The kids were so good, and it was a really exciting game. And not the outcome we all wanted, but they sure did play their hearts out.
Thank you, Laura. At this time, I'd like to move on to a proposed executive session, to move into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person and litigations in the matter of the Jewel class action lawsuit with action to follow. May I have a motion, please?
A motion, I'll second.
Okay, and Christie. Okay, all in favor? Okay, be right back. 7:39 Pearl. We got it in the email.
You know what, I'll send it around tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Something else, let's know, Pearl. Okay, coming back from executive session, can I have a motion to return to open session? Ken? And Bud. Okay, and all in favor? And we're at 8:04, Pearl. Okay, at this time, I'd like to move on to item E. Can I get a motion to accept item E, personnel instruction, non-instructional personnel?
No motion.
Second?
Second.
Lori? All in favor? Okay, on to item F. Oh, did you want to? Oh, you left.
I don't think you realize.
Yes.
Congratulations, David.
On to item F, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda? Laura, and second by Mike. All in favor? Item H, we'll start off with H1, since we have a roll call on H2. Can I get a motion to accept the first reading of proposed district policies? Christie? Second? Ken? All in favor? Okay, on to item H2, the approval of the transportation proposed resolution. Can I have a motion? Christie? Second, Lori. And this is roll call. I'm going to say yes. Lori?
Yes.
Allison's not here. Christie?
Yes.
Tim's not here. Mr. Murphy? And Ken?
Yes.
Okay. And on to item H3, approval of the capital outlay project. Can I have a motion to? Motion, Ken? And second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, and number 4 is the approval of the pending litigation of the Jewel class action lawsuit. Can I have a motion? Lori?
I'll second.
Second, Steve. And this is also a roll call, and I will say yes. Lori?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. Sherman? Yes. Okay, and item I, can I get a motion to adjourn? Christie? And second? Lori? All in favor? Okay, have a wonderful night, everybody. And just a reminder, Pearl's going to send out an email again about the annual meeting for the BOCES. Could you just get back to her after you're going to attend that? I will tell you, it's a pretty awesome
Yes.
event.